basic financial principles for our current and any aspiring AEC leaders. So all of those are really awesome SMPS Houston events. So please go, like I said, go on our website and check those out. And then I think that's pretty much it. So today we have the wonderful opportunity of hearing Courtney Kearney of Kearney Consulting talk to us about some industry analysis. And with that, I will turn it over to you, Courtney.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We did have a question about the recording and whether it'd be shared. I wasn't sure about that, so I was going to let you kind of address that question.
I believe it will be shared with the participants today, but I will confirm that and let you guys know.
Sounds good. Well, thank you. Welcome to everyone. I'm so glad that we've got some participation today. I know a lot of us are webinared out, so I'm glad that this was a topic that some of you wanted to hear about, and one that I am super passionate about. I'm Courtney Kearney, founder and owner of C. Kearney Consulting. I'm a wife, mom, and data-loving marketer. My experience being a marketer is about 15 years. However, I was born into this industry. My dad was a project manager for a construction company here in the DFW area. So I grew up going to the job site, and the built community really got into my blood at a young age. So I knew that this was the industry for me. And like the majority of our marketers in this industry, I didn't slip and trip and fall into the industry. It was my chosen choice to come into this industry. I went to Texas A&M University and studied engineering and did that for about 2.5 years and said, I cannot sit at a desk and do AutoCAD. So I switched to communication to communicate for the technical staff, became a marketer for a construction company. Funny enough, that construction company was the company that I took my first internship with in 8th grade. They stuck me in a closet and said, you're young, you can type. So they gave me binder after binder of all this information that I typed into this really big old school computer. And when I became a marketer many years later, I recognized a lot of that data and had no idea that back then I was doing data entry into a CRM. So I like to say that my CRM experience goes all the way back to 8th grade. I am a supporter of SMPS. I'm a past president of the Fort Worth chapter here in Texas. I would love to be connected with you on LinkedIn. When I share these slides later, that is a hyperlink on this slide so you can get to my profile in case we're not connected. A little bit of logistics. I am sharing my video, so if you if it's taking up too much of the screen and you can't see the slides, feel free to change your options either to gallery view instead of speaker view, or you can drag and drop your video panel. I have spotlighted me. If that hasn't worked on your screen, you can always click the 3 dots in my picture and then do spotlight on that one as well. This webinar is meant to be interactive. I know and I recognize many of you on the call, so thank you for joining. I want to invite those of you who have done industry analysis or are doing, like Sarah, are in the middle of doing industry analysis to share. I do this often, but by no means do I know everything. So I would love to hear from you all. We're going to interact together 2 ways. We're going to do polls, and we're also going to do open-ended questions. So with the polls, it is text, and you can participate on our website. So the text, if you want to go ahead and pull out your phone and text C. Kearney 615 to 22333, then that will go ahead and get you prepared for the first poll question, which I'm about to ask. If you're on a browser and you're using 2 monitors, feel free to pull up pollev.com/ckearney615, and then you can participate on a browser. If you're on your phone, you can participate on your phone's browser instead of texting as well, whatever method you prefer. For the open-ended questions, we're going to handle that through the chat window. I don't see the Q&A panel for this setup, so if you just want to drop it into chat, you have the option to ask everyone, or you can just ask me or Sarah, and we can ask your question for you on your behalf. The other logistics that I don't usually have on the slide that I do want to admit and let you know is that I dropped my laptop on my foot late last night, and it's all nasty and bruised, and I usually stand for my presentations and I'm much more engaged. I usually have a screen behind me and I don't do this virtual thing because my hands are disappearing. So I'm sorry that I'm at half capacity. Thankfully, it was not broken. It's just severely bruised. And I know this is weird, but thankfully my foot caught my laptop and it didn't land on the concrete, because I'd rather have a bruised foot than pay thousands of dollars to replace my mat. So all that to say, with this virtual, if it slows me down too much, I might just drop the virtual background. You'll see my guest room. That's just the reality that we all live in at this point. So I'll definitely watch my bandwidth. If I see it dragging, I'll drop that. And then if I need to drop video altogether, I want y'all to be able to hear more than to see me. If you have any other logistics or housekeeping questions, feel free to drop it into the chat and I will address that. That leads me to my first poll. So again, text Courtney615 to the number 22333, or go to the website pollev.com/Courtney615. So our first question, what word or words come to mind when you think of industry analysis? And they don't all have to be positive if industry analysis scares you or feels daunting. Research, that's a good one. Trends. Ooh, I like data. That's not my word. Competitors. Data's popular. Insight, important. Statistics. Markets. Clients. These are great. Guidance. Fantastic. Well, thank you for participating. And if you think of another word and that question is still up, feel free to drop it in. I'll share the results at the end. I love that data is the biggest. You can tell my hands were free. I was not participating. So that was you guys answering that. That wasn't me. I do love that data. I can't tell which answer was just added. So thank you for whoever answered that. Data is what feeds into industry analysis. What is difficult about some of these types of presentations is that every company is going to be different for the data that is required for your analysis. So I'm going to guide you through the high level, and then you're going to have to put it into terms of your firm and what that means for you. I can give you examples. We're going to go over those, but you're going to have to put it into the nomenclature of your own firm to be able to kind of apply these. But the data, in a sense, is the same. It does require research, so I'm glad that we are realistic about that, and it does require time. So what is industry analysis? It really is an assessment tool. It is meant to be a tool that gives you insight, another word that showed up on our word cloud. But it also does 5 other things. It allows you to see trends. It allows you to see into your competition, to give projections, whether that's financial, workload. What is your company's market share? How much of the market do you actually have in a specific geography, service, or market? And it helps you to project growth or make growth decisions. This is a great slide that if you want to do industry analysis, if you want to spend time, resources, money to put towards industry analysis and your firm leadership is not really getting it or behind it, this is a great place to kind of start, to educate them on what comes out of the research, what comes out of the time and effort it takes you to collect all of the data. This leads me to my next question. So again, text C. Courtney 615-222-333 or jump over to the website. For those who have just joined us, I'm going to go ahead and drop that URL into the chat window as well. And then as soon as I click off of this slide, the text is going to go away. So I'm going to drop that in as well. So the next question is, does your company perform regular industry analysis? Sorry about that. Does your company conduct regular industry analysis? Yes or no? Thank you for the participation, Stacy. I see you on, so I know you're hiding in that 13%. I'm excited to see you this morning, or see your name rather. Seth, I love that. Not regular, but we do some. Hey, some counts. Some is better than nothing. Awesome. It looks like we've got a good participation. So we ended at 13% said yes, and 88% said no. So I hope by the end of this presentation that the 86% of you that said no feel armed with information to be able to go forth and start that. Now, know that you do not have to do it all at once. You do not have to see every nuance of your business researched. You do not have to go into a 100-page document in order to do this. Really focusing on what it is that you want to analyze in a very specific way will help you move forward and to not be so scared or feel like it's so daunting. So for the 86% of you that are not, I'm going to give you 5 reasons why you should be. Specifically, in today's state of the world, we're in a global pandemic, and with that, a lot of uncertainty has arisen, not just in our culture, but in our businesses as well. Now, all of our projections have changed. Since January, I am sure that none of us are on track with projections. Now, depending on what business you're in, that could be or what market you're in, that could be a little different. You could have a boom depending on what services you're providing. But for the most of us, projections have changed. Hardship is a new reality, whether that's current hardship or projected hardship that's going to be coming. Information, it is important to make decisions off of data and not speculation. So right now, it's really important to not base our decisions on how we're feeling or the state of heightened emotions, but really getting down to that data, looking at what can we quantify, how many projects do we have, what is our actual forecast, not just, God, it feels like every project is stalling, or it feels like, you know, all of our proposals, we're not winning enough. Go off of the data. What is your actual hit rate? What is your actual utilization rate? That will help make those decisions. Business strategy has shifted, and geography has an impact on our growth potential. Some areas of the country have been hit harder than others. Geography plays a huge impact now more than ever. We're going to dive into each one of these and see what lies under here and how we can provide industry analysis to help each area. So this is a chance for change. Now, our industry has been notorious for opposing change, specifically in the area of working from home. I started my business 4 years ago, and a lot of my peers and leadership that I had worked with over the years and has known me since I was, really young, growing up in this industry. So there's no way you're going to be successful working from home. You're going to have brick and mortar. You're going to have to hire people local. And I didn't, and there's no way that I would, given the lifestyle that I wanted. And it's been successful. Looking at how we've all moved to work from home, I think has been a lesson for our industry. I'm a part of a C-suite cohort, and we have talked about what the game change is for our industry and what we're going to see come to the surface and what success really looks like now from a leadership level and a company as a whole. What we've discussed is that it comes down to agility. And really, when you look at agility, it's the ability to change and how quick you can make that change. One of the CEOs is for a construction company, a rather large one, and their clients, the feedback that they were getting is that they were the most quick to adapt to the change of COVID. That for them, their clients are telling them that there was no difference for their, like the services that they were providing, the quality in which their staff was able to continue their projects. So much so that the CEO has been getting calls from other owners saying, we're going to pull this contractor off of this project. Can you take it over? Because we've been so pleased with how you've handled this. And this other company hasn't been able to change. They were not built or structured in a way to be agile. You guys have been. That is your differentiator. And who knew that in our business, being agile was going to make or break some companies? But that is the market and the world that we're living in now. So really having that in your industry analysis is important so that you can say, change is now a factor. Your ability to be able to change and adapt is now a factor or a differentiator in how well or smoothly that transition happens. Now, it's safe to say that most of our projections that we either set at the end of last year or the beginning of 2020 have changed. It's important to adapt those as well and to adjust our original projections. To measure success off of the climate of the industry now is important, not based on what we thought 2020 was going to be. I've heard a lot of my clients still saying things like, well, our goal was to be 50% over profit or more profitable than 2019. We're set to be 30. We hope to be at 50. That's not a healthy place to be. It is now July. We're in Q3. It's not healthy to hang on to what was going to be 2020. We need to accept where 2020 is and move forward. So this leads me to my next poll question. And I don't know that anybody has joined since, but if you haven't yet texted Courtney 615 to 22333, please do so, or go to this web address. The question is, has your firm updated your strategic plan? Hopefully you have one, and hopefully you are updating it, or it has been updated to reflect what is happening in our current climate. Good to see that we're still the majority has yes, you have updated your strategic plan. I know I did a webinar, I think 2 weeks ago, on how to thrive virtually and not just survive. And one of the participants said, my leadership will not address the strategic plan. They will not talk about our corporate objectives. They just say we need to get things done. And that was a very scary thing to hear from leadership. So I'm glad that you guys on this call are not in that boat. Hopefully the 22% of you who have not updated your strategic plan, that is on your to-do list or something that you plan to get done hopefully by the end of Q3. So accepting where we are at is about not going back. We have to look forward and not hold on to what was or what could have been for 2020. I'm a huge Simon Sinek fan, so I'm going to let him share his and how he explained his view of what's going on and really thinking about our new normal, which I hate that phrase, but an abnormal that we're all going and it have to address, have to accept so that we can move forward and thrive and not just cling to survival mode. This really gets into that reason number 2 that I stated at the beginning is that hardship is a new reality. We all have to address that things are going to change. Change is hard no matter who we are. Humans don't like to change. So really having a position of long-term success is about acceptance and really looking at industry analysis, providing companies the vital information to make well-informed, data-driven decisions so that we can accept where we're at, but be able to project and move forward. So with that, I'm going to let Simon share. I'm going to drop the YouTube channel or link into the channel just in case this doesn't work bandwidth-wise for you guys so that you can refer to that later in case this doesn't go seamlessly.
So one of the things that an infinite mindset provides is sort of what I would call a quiet confidence.
A little bit ahead, 40 seconds.
Well, most of us live 70 to 80 years old. Imagine if we lived for 1,000 years. This would be like the 6th or 7th pandemic that we faced in our lives. We know it's going to hurt. But we know it's going to be over, and we know there's going to be pain, and we know how to prepare for it. So what an infinite mindset provides is it helps you see what we're going through now, not as the end, but rather just part of the journey. Like it's hard and it's difficult, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. We're in darkness, but we know this comes to an end. We also know that life will not be the same afterwards. This is like World War II. It's like the way life was before World War II is not what life was like after World War II. The way that life was before this pandemic will not be what it's going to be. When we talk about going back to normal, there is no going back to normal. As a friend of mine called it the other day, which I like, we're going back to abnormal.
Yeah.
It will be different. We don't really know how. But this is, what's really important to remember is this is not without precedence, which is we have gone through things before that have shaken the business world, sometimes forcing companies out of business. What do you think the internet did? I mean, the internet, put a lot of companies out of business who couldn't adapt to a new business, to the new change, and it created new businesses. And some businesses were forced to adjust, some proactively and did very well, some defensively, and they're still trying to figure it out. Streaming put all video stores out of business. Didn't have to, but it did. Starbucks, when Starbucks would come into a neighborhood, people would complain that Starbucks would put mom and pop coffee shops out of business. Actually, the data shows the opposite, that when Starbucks moved into a neighborhood, mom and pop coffee shops actually did better because it brought customers and people had a groundswell for the local business. The ones that went out of business were the ones that couldn't adapt. They still had that old ripped up couch because they had a monopoly on coffee shops. And when Starbucks came in with nice clean stores, they simply complained about Starbucks and they went out of business. It's like taxis complaining about Uber. An app doesn't put you out of business. You can have an app to hail a taxi. It's because you have you have to adapt for the changing times, for new technologies, new companies, new competition, new ways of doing business. And if you don't adapt, you die. Now, that's not universal. Some companies, like video stores, some companies, this is just too much to bear, and there's very little we can do. But to think of this in terms of what skill sets do we have, what is our why, and how else can we bring that to life, this is way more sudden than the internet. It's way more shocking. It's way more unnerving, but it's not new in business. We know how to do this. I read of, I'll tell you two stories. There's a restaurant in New York City called Res Dora. It's a pasta restaurant. It's a relatively new restaurant. It's only been open about 9 months, so they're still they're still making a name for themselves. And of course, when New York City issued the order that restaurants could only be 50%, these guys saw the writing on the wall. They could see that this is going to get worse. So they immediately started to adapt their company. So instead of firing all the waiters, saying, well, we don't need waiters anymore, they changed everybody's job. So all those same waiters are now packaging food and organizing online orders and call-in orders, which, by the way, they had to develop. This is a high-end restaurant. They didn't deliver food. They had to immediately figure out how to do that. But the point is everybody kept their job because they changed their jobs. So just as the company had to adapt, the people had to adapt as well. The people who said, well, I'm only a waiter, well, I got no job for you. And so what we're experiencing even in our own company, which is we're forced to adapt. We do live events. Well, that doesn't exist anymore. So if I have somebody on my team going, I'm only going to do live events, well, I got none for you. Right. So we have to adapt as individuals as much as we have to adapt as companies. I tell you of another pizzeria in Chicago. Of course, 70% of their money came in from selling slices. Well, that's done. Not sustainable. So what they recognized is they have assets. They have resources. They have a pizza oven. And so what they did is they started ordering medical grade, industrial grade plastic that their oven was hot enough to heat. And they started making face shields to sell to hospitals. So they're using their pizza oven to make face shields because they can get the oven hot enough to melt the plastic. I mean, genius. Now, when this is all over, they may go back to selling pizzas or they may have two businesses.
All right, hopefully you guys were able to hear most of that. If not, again, I dropped the URL for the video into the chat window. Really what I love about what Simon shared, two things. One, what I talked about earlier, not basing the things off of feeling, but data. When he said, people were up in arms that Starbucks would come into towns because it would put mom and pop shops out of business. Well, what the data showed was that was not true, that there was a groundswelling for the mom and pop coffee shops. But people didn't realize that until the data showed that. So we don't have to be angry at Starbucks for that reason. Maybe there are other reasons, but for that reason, we don't have to be angry because the data showed that is not a true statement. The other thing is that the results of the mom and pop shops going out of business were unwillingness to adapt or be agile to change. Same thing with Blockbuster, not being able to adapt or change to streaming or going online. If you are interested in looking at other case studies of agility or arming yourself with that knowledge so that you can go to your leadership, I highly recommend the podcast Business Wars. It's a Wondery podcast, and it is fantastic for looking at, they pit businesses against themselves, hence the business wars. One of them being Starbucks versus Dunkin' Donuts, Amazon versus Walmart, Netflix versus Blockbuster, all of those. Like, it is just incredible to see what agility and how that really plays a part into the success of businesses, regardless of the industry that they're in. I think it's really important for us to know that as marketers, because we tend to be the ones leading the charge. Awesome. It looks like somebody was unmuted, but they muted themselves. I appreciate that. So really, this leads me into our first open discussion. So I would love to hear how your firms are embracing this new reality that we're in. Have any of your firms adapted or changed in a significant way? Simon gave the example of the pizzeria using their ovens for face shields instead of pizza. Others that were just stayed in the same business, but they changed from in-person dining to delivery and online. Have any of you changed or adapted, whether that's you shut down one service or focused on a different market? I know one of my clients was looking at the analytics on their website, which we're going to talk about in a couple slides, but looking at the analytics, they completely redid their website within the first 2 weeks of COVID because there was much more traffic on a certain service. So they redid their website to be forward with that service instead of the service that was popular pre-COVID. So have any of you had any examples of change or agility? Feel free to unmute yourself or drop it in the chat window. Seth shared exploring new markets and new ways to work with other consultants. I think collaboration is a big one right now. I'm glad that you shared that. Thank you, Seth. I am curious, for those that are exploring new markets, are you just kind of poking into them, or do you have data and analysis behind going into those new markets? Monica shared web-based internal and client meetings. Yes, that is a big one for sure.
I'll say something if you want me to elaborate on mine. Definitely looking at new markets. I mean, we're a project management firm and predominantly in the public sector, higher ed, K-12, counties and municipalities, and we're exploring into the healthcare and industrial markets, and definitely need to look at data analysis on that. So getting research, trying to learn the different, lay of the land, who the players are and who's already there. So, I mean, that's been a big part of what I've been doing the last 2 months.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing, Seth. That's great. And I love to hear that your firm was willing to put time and resources behind that. Stacy shared shifted resilience plans to help transition districts and create safety plans to keep public riders safe. Yes. Monica focused on our technology-based offerings to our clientele. Absolutely. I know some clients, specifically in the hospitality, some of my clients helped their hospitality clients shift the use of their hotels or entertainment venues to either provide free rooms or discounted rooms to first responders so that those first responders didn't have to go home to their families and potentially expose them to the virus or other unknown factors, which as a wife of a frontline, my husband is an ER nurse and works nights, which is fun to try to keep a house quiet all day while he is sleeping. That was one that really impacted our family and made a huge difference from a marketing perspective. Now, we just social distance in our own home, so I moved into the guest room, so we didn't take that up. We wanted other people to be able to have those rooms, but it made an impact on us, and that brand will be our brand of choice moving forward whenever selecting a hotel, which I think from a marketing perspective is huge. So really helping our clients to think about that. I know there were clients in the education field that repurposed the schools over the summer to either be clinics or testing sites so that they could use their facilities as well. All right, so once you've adapted to change, it's really about pulling the data at that point so that you can look at the facts and figures. So we can make decisions based off of real data, not speculation. They're looking at the areas that you can break down. There's really 5 data types that we're going to look at in specifically looking at analysis. my mouse won't click. Hold on. Okay, perfect. Looking at specific trends. So we've got, I break it down into 4 main trends that you can really analyze. I would love to hear from others of you if you think that there are additional trends, but these are the 4 that I tend to focus on. For the 86% of you who are not doing industry analysis, just pick one. Don't try to do all 4. Really focus in on just one trend. If you start to broaden your focus, the data will get muddied. So the 4 trends, the first is industry-wide. So looking at trends that the entire industry is experiencing. Are we on a growth trend? Are we declining? What are the trends that the entire industry is seeing? Looking at a specific service. So breaking it down to the A, the E, or the C, and what are the trends that are affecting architecture? Now, we know a very historically true trend is that architecture is going to feel things first, engineering second, construction last. So really the contractors right now are looking at architecture to see what the architecture trends are for productivity, for projects, for workload, because that lags about 18 months for construction. So really looking at those trends specific to your service. Or looking at trends for market specific. So what is the trend for healthcare? What is the trend for education? Now you can get very specific within those markets. So not just education, but what is K through 12 doing? What is higher education doing? Now, I know that there are very few of us who are just in one single market. My suggestion is to take your most popular, and what I mean by popular is profitable. Not popular as in people love to do those jobs, or they're the sexy jobs, they're the ones that photograph well. No, what is the most profitable market in your business now, not back in 2019? So really that kind of lets me into a little window that to do true market analysis, you need to become friends with your accounting department, or at least have access to it, because you're going to want to look internal at your firm first to know what information you need to go get externally. So what market are you most profitable in? And then what are the trends in those markets? Now, if you want to do the reverse and say, what are you least profitable in, and look at the trends to arm you with data for reasons to get out of that market, that is also a way that you can look at market specific trends. The last one is geography. So we've looked at the industry at large, your specific service, the A, the E, or the C, specific market. Now we're going to look at geography. So where are you located? How is your specific state doing? How is your specific city? How is your specific 2-hour region around your city? Whatever that geography is for your firm. Now, the geography trends that I also see are if you're considering that new market like Seth was talking about. If that new market is geography based, if you're thinking of opening a new office, or if your office is underperforming and you want to look at how that region is doing, should you continue to maintain that office in that geographic location? So once you've narrowed down what type of trend that you want to analyze, really it's looking at the tool. That's the trend analysis is the tool that helps you determine the future movements of the variable that you are basing the historical trends on. So again, picking one of those 4. If you're on the call and you think that there is a 5th or 6th option to that outside of just those 4, please drop it into the window or unmute yourself and share. I would love to add to that list. Those are just the 4 that I tend to focus on. The trend analysis is looking to predict the future behavior based on past data. Now, the past data gets tricky. I tend to go 5 to 10 years back and only project out to 5 years. Some suggest only projecting 3 years. Right now, I mean, I guess you could say we're going to project 18 months or something. Yes, Marion, tracking what your competition is doing, absolutely. And for that, I do that in a whole other section, not really the trends, because it's hard to know what your competitors are trending unless you have a significant history backlog of what your competitors are doing. But if you have been monitoring your competitors for a significant amount of time to do trend analysis, most definitely. Under the method of trend analysis, you're trying to collect information from multiple time periods so that you can plot the information so that you can get meaningful information. Now, there isn't a specific amount of time for the movement to become a trend. Some people say that you need 10 years, 15 years. I don't give a specific, as long as it's long enough that you can begin to see movement. Now, we are not looking for patterns. You're not looking for up, down, up, down. You're looking for movement. So if you've got a plateau, you need to either dig in a little bit deeper, but you need to see movement in a direction. That is when you know that you can see trends start to come forward. So I've got some examples for you of trend analysis that I've done for clients. So looking specifically at Texas. So Texas aggregated by value. So this is looking at the dollars. Now this is put in place dollars. When you start to go out to FMI or Dodge Data or CMD Group, each one of those, you need to make sure that you understand the data that you're getting. So some of them give you put in place numbers. Some give you projected numbers. Some give you, what do they call it? Weighted numbers. So you have to understand what you're looking at whenever you give that to your firm. And what that means is, are you looking at the dollars when you make the sell? So we know that in construction as an example, when we win a $35 million job, we do not get a check for $35 million or our fee of 5% of $35 million. We get that over time. So there is many schools of thought, and therefore each company gives you data in a specific way. So some give it up front. When you win that 35 million, that 35 million hits in that year. So looking at this number, $42 billion is going to hit in 2020 for Texas. Looking at that, that is fine if that is what you want to look at. If you want to see it over time, then that 35 million needs to be projected across however long the project is, 18 months, 24 months, and then it is dispersed accordingly. Or you can do put in place. That 35 million does not count until the project is done. It is put in place, it's finished. That's when the 35 million hits. Everybody has a different school of thought. You just need to understand the data that you are collecting from external sources so that you understand the dollars that you're projecting. Looking at this, it's when the project is won. So that is the dollars that are available to win that year. That is what people are chasing. Now, in construction, we're not chasing 2020 work because we already are building 2020 work. So for the company that I was looking at, they are already looking at the 2021, 2022 numbers. This was back in January when we did this. So what we're looking on the trend analysis is it moving up? Is it moving down? Is this a good market to be in? Is Texas a healthy market? They were doing theirs by geography is what we were looking at. So there was a dip from 2018 to 2019. However, beyond that, it was a healthy projection. Now, you can dig into what happened between 2018 and 2019. When I did, there was a huge arena that finished, and that those dollars really jumped and then it went back to normal. So if that project had not hit, it would have been more of a steady incline. But because it hit in 2017, finished in 2018, the numbers dropped back down. So really looking at understanding the numbers is important to that trend analysis. I did include that this is non-residential. This was just commercial numbers so that everybody knows what you're looking at. Now digging down into even more specifics of geography, what are we looking at for DFW? How is the health of DFW and what is its projections? Why did it spike? It was the arena. Why did it, or is it going to be a healthy market to be in? You want it to be more of a steady incline instead of a peak like this, because when you peak, you're gonna drop. So really looking at those trends year over year is what's important. Now again, I went 5 years forward, 5 years back. I did pull the entire 10 years back. We didn't use it. It was not specific, it wasn't significant enough for this group of leadership, but we did pull it to be able to see it. You can also do trend analysis by market. So they wanted to know over time, what is the health of each of our offices. Now, the market in Midland, Odessa is going to be significantly less dollars than that of DFW or Houston. But you want to know the trend. Is it going up? Is it plateauing? Is it going down? What is each of our markets, and should we be in those geographic areas? Any questions about the three charts that I just showed you? This was Dodge data for this company, pulled off of their information that we were analyzing. I don't see any unmutes and I don't see any chat windows, so I'll move forward a little bit. But is Dodge your main source of data? So I do not provide data. I let my clients purchase the data. Because of what I explained earlier, everybody has their own opinion of the kind of data that they want to see. So I just present Dodge, FMI, and CMD Group. And those are the three of my main sources that I go to for information. Each of those looks at it different and delivers the information a little bit different. And then there are price points that are different accordingly. Yes, Construct Connect is, I think, what CMD Group is now. They've changed names several times. So Construct Connect is either part of or merged with CMD Group. Okay, perfect. So the next step, really, once you've got your trends, your external trends, is to put your own trends on top of that. Hopefully you have some sort of analytics internally, whether that's your accounting department, whether that's a CRM, whatever that looks like for your firm, being able to say, this is the information that our trends are showing. You want to be able to look at, are our offices performing this way? Are we staying on trend with the industry? Or are we losing work and not keeping up with the profit or the market share that we should be having? The next type of, or the next reason to be doing industry analysis is strategy shifts. So we all looked at our strategic plans, and thankfully most of us have been updating them or will be updating them. But really figuring out what needs to change and then backing it up with data. So we talked about moving to more online platforms. Another piece of this is content. So managing and looking at the analytics that we have as marketers. Where is your website traffic? What are people looking at? What posts are most popular on LinkedIn right now? What information, what blog posts, what videos are being trafficked the most, so that you can report back that these are the services that people are wanting from us. This is the information that they are hungry for. Let's give them more of this Let's invest more in this area. That is another way to use analytics to help us as marketers to develop the content that our audience is hungry for or needs. Now, there are many ways that you can analyze that. Sprout is a great one. It is more expensive. You can do things like Hootsuite, or look at your just free analytics out of each one of the platforms. I know Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn all give you some amount of analytics. But looking at my company, you can go very deep into that. High level, we look at the 3 most popular every month and the 3 least popular every month for each platform. We know that each platform is used differently, so we want to be able to make sure that we're providing the relevant content across each media. The geography impacts the growth potential. That's the 5th reason to do industry analysis. Where should we be focusing our efforts? Industry analysis equips you with the knowledge that the markets that you should be pursuing, what markets are thriving, where should and shouldn't you be, so that you can pinpoint the communities that you can focus on. Now, again, you can get as broad as your state, you can get as narrow as your city. For that same company that I gave you the pictures of, we also wanted to do driving distance. So we did a 2-hour radius around each city to see the health of that region, not just the city. You also have to understand whenever Dodge, FMI, or Construct Connect gives you that information, what does that mean? Are they going off of MSA? So that you know, when I pull DFW numbers, what am I getting? Am I just getting the counties? Am I getting the cities? Are they doing it by zip code? What information are you looking at so that you know that you can apply it to your business? Now, looking at the content and investing those resources, this leads into that business intelligence discussion. So really using your analytics so that you can monitor and know what your business is doing, how it's performing, and then act accordingly. So it's really fruitless to do all the effort of having the analytics if you're not going to act on it, or if your leadership is not going to act on it. Changing your website, changing your strategy for your social media, for your email campaigns, that is acting on your analytics. That's something that we control from a marketing perspective. Reacting on a leadership level is something that we can present. And the way to do that is by having leadership making data-driven decisions. In the August edition of The Marketer, I have an article that's talking about the security, that business intelligence yields security, and that is from a business owner perspective. So that would be a great article to share with your leadership if you're having issues with them acting on the analytics that you're providing them. So really looking at business analytics is about data mining, data visualization, using your data tools in your infrastructure, but it leads to best practices to help make decisions. It is not, business intelligence is not going to make your business better if you're not acting on that. And I know that most of us on the call aren't able to act on that. We just have to facilitate and help those that can act on it be able to do so. So really looking at some examples of the market trends, the competitive analysis, so providing the same ideas that we looked at for geography, but for your competitors. Where I see the competitive analysis work the most often is not looking at competitor X compared to you, but breaking it into something specific. So if you feel like as a marketer, you keep losing the same proposals to the same company in a specific market, like, man, every K through 12 job, we seem to be giving up to Joe Smith. Like, why does that keep happening? you can start to track that and really put the analytics behind it so that you can say to your business developer in K through 12, maybe we shouldn't be chasing this because the last 10 that we've done, we've lost 10 to this company. That is a great use of competitive analysis. Looking at your workload or your financial projections is another great use of your analytics or business intelligence. Being able to give insight into the markets that we should target, the use of our resources, but being able to adapt and change to those. The industry analysis is the preparation for the change. So in this article, I give a checklist. There are 4 questions that you can ask to see where you fall on your business intelligence. Is your data secure in a database, or is it trapped on a server, or even worse, is it trapped in the minds of your employees? Is there a clear process to run regular audits on your data to be able to know that every project has a start and completion date? Every opportunity has a pursuit dollars in that opportunity. Is there an automated verification system to find missing data? So whether that's running reports or looking in your Excel, filtering it by the dollars and saying these 2 projects don't have current dollars. So therefore, I'm not providing the right data in my analytics if I'm missing dollars from projects or pursuits. Does your firm make data-driven decisions? Those are 4 questions. They're yes and no. Count your yeses. We're going to do our last poll. How secure is your firm's business intelligence? Did you answer no to all 4? Did you answer no to 2 or 3? Did you answer yes to all 4? Fair. Are we all going to be fair? That has never happened. Now I'm questioning if it is a glitch or not. So it looks like everybody answered no to 2 or 3 questions. No one had them all, and no one had no to all of them. So looking at that checklist, I'm going to jump back really quickly. Looking at that checklist, this is a great action item so that you can start to check these off and work on them so that you can be in a place to do industry analysis, to have that business intelligence. So if you're lacking the process, that's what you can work on. If you're lacking the ability to have your firm make data-driven decisions, spending time and research to do that and provide them the information that they need to make those decisions is where your time and energy can be spent. So to close, we had 3 learning objectives for this webinar. To discuss 5 reasons why your firm is required to conduct industry analysis, to understand the importance of data-driven decisions, and how to use analytics to determine the types of content to produce and where to invest your resources. Hopefully you feel like all of those were covered. If you have more questions, feel free to ask them in the chat, to unmute yourself, or drop me an email, or I'm on all the social media platforms so you can contact me there.
Does anybody have any questions for Courtney before we wrap up? Okay, well, thank you, Courtney. This was so informative and a really enjoyable presentation. So thank you so much. And to follow up on the video question from before, all the participants from today will receive an email this afternoon with the link to access this recording.
Fantastic.
All right, well, thank you everyone. And thanks again, Courtney. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.